So I want to go ahead and I want to close out our series on overcoming objections. And this is something that we started because as a salesperson, or really anyone who wants to get the things that they want, you have to know how to overcome people's objections. And so we need to understand that overcoming an objection is not subjective to the objection. Instead, it literally is just a process. And if you've been following along with me over the last few weeks, I encourage you to go back and rewatch these other videos that we have on overcoming objections. One of them being finding the perfect timing, and the second video being crafting your alternate solution proposal. Because both of those videos give some really, really good insight into how to actually use the things that are on this paper. So I want to go through here. And if you don't have these handouts, get these handouts. Ask your regional success partner, ask me, ask Elizabeth, ask anybody at the office, but make sure that you keep these somewhere. So anytime you start to forget, you go, you grab them, and you can go over them. So I want to start by going back over the 7 steps for overcoming any objection, talking about the 3 levels of active listening, talking about timing your alternate solution, and how to actually craft that. And I want to put it all together, package together what we've been going over for the last few weeks. So, number 1 are the 7 steps for overcoming any objection. This is anything that someone objects to. These are the steps you want to follow. Number 1, know your goal before conversing. Now, remember, that means that you have to understand what it is that you plan to achieve by the end of that conversation. Don't ever go into a conversation, into a negotiation, into any scenario without understanding what it is that your end goal is. You may not always get exactly what that end goal is, but if you know what that is, you can start to work in that direction. If you have no idea what your end goal is and you're just kind of hoping for the best, I can guarantee you'll never land on the best. You'll land on something else. You'll land wherever the other person wants you to land because you're not in control of the conversation. Number 2, don't react. Listen. And this is a problem for most human beings. This is not just salespeople. This is everyone in general. We immediately start to think, how can I react? How can I respond to what someone's about to say? And you see, overcoming an objection is not that. It's not an immediate reaction. If you are reacting immediately, that is an argument. You're creating an argumentative situation. And if you notice, if you've ever been told, wow, you're a pretty argumentative person, it probably has nothing to do with what you actually said, but it has to do with the fact that you immediately have something to say right after. And everyone knows that feeling. When you hear someone, you go, they have something to say. They always have a response for everything. And that's what you're doing. That's someone who's being reactive, not really listening, not understanding what that objection is. Number 3, acknowledge the objection. Too many times I hear salespeople, somebody will say, oh, but I don't want a blue car. I actually want a red car. And instead of the salesperson acknowledging, oh, okay, well, you're telling me that you'd like a blue car instead of a red car, they actually just say, well, what about getting a different color car? Well, you have to acknowledge the objection. When you walk over an objection, what you're really telling someone is, I don't care about what you're saying. I don't care what it is that you have to say. I care about my agenda. I care about only my goal. And I don't really care about what's going on in your world. And to overcome an objection, what we have to do is we have to have the other person truly believe that we have stepped into their world, that we understand their pain, that we understand what it is that they're dealing with. Now, number 4, comprehend the objection. This is you making sure that you actually understand what the objection is. You see, a lot of the time, people will tell you things, and that's not the real objection. So we've got to make sure that we understand, that we comprehend that objection. Number 5, offer an alternate solution. So sometimes you'll hear that somebody says, well, you sure have a response to everything, but you're not really offering a solution. And they're right. If you don't bring a solution to the table, no matter how outrageous your solution may be, then you can't expect to get a good result. You have to bring a solution. You have to bring something to the table for the other person to be able to either agree or disagree with. Number six, paint a vivid future narrative. So, a vivid future narrative is literally you painting a picture, you describing something in such a way that someone's able to visualize it. If they were to close their eyes, they could see the entire picture. Think of a movie just playing in their heads. That's what a vivid future narrative is. And that's future pacing. When we future pace, we create a scenario where someone is living out that dream, that memory that you're creating for them right there in the moment. Has very, very strong psychological implications because we know that we can experience joy without actually experiencing it by just thinking about it. And if you don't believe me, really think deep about a food that you love and think about the steam coming off of that food, the smells that come off of it, all the things about that food, and your mouth will actually start to water because your brain is now starting to experience what it is that's happening before it actually happens just from the thought of it. And then number seven, the step that almost all salespeople forget about: ask to close the sale again. If you don't ask to close the sale, if you're not constantly making sure to loop back around, get back to that process of closing the sale, you're leaving out the most important step. It doesn't matter if you do numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 if you don't ask for the sale. Don't ever expect someone to just say, okay, yes, I would love to purchase after you go and overcome the objection. What you have to understand is that they're going to say, okay, and they're going to be in a position where they want you to ask for the sale. And you have to have the gall to say, would you like to do this now? And if you're not willing to do that, then you really need to work on just asking for the sale, asking for the sale, asking for the sale. That's a skill, that's a practice, because you have to be ready to be told no. And remember, we don't like being told no, we like an objection. So anytime that you get told no, you need to ask, well, why not? What's stopping you from moving forward? Because you need to know what the objection is. You can't overcome what you don't know. Now, what I want to look at is the 3 levels of active listening, because those 3 levels of active listening here, they go hand in hand with the 7 steps for overcoming any objection. Here where it says acknowledge, don't react, listen, acknowledge, and comprehend. This is utilizing the 3 levels of active listening. And you want to memorize these, and you want to practice, and then practice some more. See, you wouldn't ever learn a sport, basketball, baseball, hockey, tennis, any sport, by just reading a book about it. You may learn theory, you may learn how to utilize a theory, but you'll never actually learn how to play the sport. So in order for you to learn how to play the sport of overcoming objections, you have to get good at the skill of active listening. So let's look at those 3 levels of active listening. The first of it being parroting. Now remember, parroting is repeating word for word what somebody said. And there's really, really good examples here. I don't want to have to repeat everything on this page because we've already gone over it. There's an entire video about active listening. But parroting, you're repeating exactly what they said. You would never, ever, under any circumstance do this in a real conversation. That would really weird people out. But in the event that you are practicing, do some parroting. Even if you think it's ridiculous, do some parroting. It changes your brain from a state of reacting to a state of listening. And when you go from that state of reacting to the state of listening, it changes how you actually listen to people. Now remember, the second level is recreating for. You are going to paraphrase what they said. So if somebody says, oh, I think I like chocolate ice cream better than vanilla, you're going to repeat, oh, so you seem to think that chocolate is a better ice cream than vanilla. I'm not going to repeat word for word what they said, but I'm going to paraphrase for them what they said. Big red flag. And remember this, recreating is easier than parroting. Everybody knows that who practices these skills. Recreating is way easier than parroting. But if you stink at parroting and you're no good at parroting, your recreating will only be subsurface level. You'll never be able to actually get to the next level, which is generating from. Figuring out why that emotion exists, figuring out what's on the deeper level of that emotion. For example, the example we use here is the client says, I want to buy a house that's close to a highly rated school. And then you say, so what you're telling me is that in your home search, buying a house near a highly rated school is an absolute need because your kid's education isn't very important to you. And you'll want to be sure that the school they're zoned to can provide that, correct? And remember, you always have them confirm yes or no. If they don't agree to it, then you have to go back and listen some more and understand the true objection. Now, timing your alternate solution. Timing is everything. If you try to propose an alternate solution at the right time, it doesn't matter how amazing or incredible or great you think that alternate solution might be, it will be fully ineffective because the timing of the solution is more important than anything. You can propose a bad alternate solution and still win over the client if you propose it at the right time. Timing is everything. Go through the process. Start with the 7 steps that we just went through. Continue to ask questions like, why is that important to you? What would that change for you? If you didn't get that, how would it affect you? Would you consider that a necessity or a bonus? How does that help you? And remember, there's other questions you can ask. These are just examples for you to utilize so that you have something, you have a framework to go forward. After you do that, don't move on unless you can answer these questions for yourself. Do I, not the client, do I really understand the objection? Do I understand why it matters or is important to them? Do I know what their pain point problem is? And we have to know the pain point or problem. That's part of crafting the alternate solution. If we don't know the pain point or the problem, we can't craft an alternate solution. And do I understand the intensity of the objection? Is this something really minor or is this a really big deal for them? Without knowing that, we can't craft an alternate solution. If it's yes, you know that all those are yes, then we get into the question. So what you're telling me is that X is important to you because of Y, and if X was fulfilled for you, it would make Z difference. That's very important for you to remember that statement. I would go as far as to memorize that statement. That's something that you can utilize almost everywhere. So what you're telling me is that X is important to you because of Y, and if X was fulfilled for you, it would make Z difference. And when people really get that, yeah, you get me. Now you're ready to give an alternate solution. And remember, the alternate solution is not as important as when you time it. Now, let's talk about crafting the alternate solution. Remember, there's videos for each one of these, so I'm not going to break these down really, really deeply here, but I do want you to go back, watch the videos, understand them, and practice, practice, practice. And at the end of this video, I want you to practice some active listening. I want you to practice working on your timing, and I want you to practice creating an alternate solution. Find objections, whatever they may be, to anything and utilize these systems. These systems work time after time after time. They are a framework for you to utilize in overcoming objections. Don't go out and try to recreate the wheel. This works. This is a solution that you can use for any objection. So remember, crafting the alternate solution, you have everything that you need already, and this is the one that goes with a, well, what if, and you want to practice that. Remember that tonality. Well, I'm thinking, well, what if, and I'm going to put out my alternate solution, but I do that at the appropriate time. Now, I want you to go through that sheet. I really want you to understand that. And remember, like always, we get confirmation from them. How does that sound to you after we give the alternate solution? Now, I hope that all of this training on overcoming objections has been really good for you. Remember that you can go on YouTube, search White Picket Realty, look for the team training videos, and look for the series on overcoming objections. This video will be on there as well. It'll be labeled Overcoming Objections. And if you have any questions, reach out to your regional success partner. If you need copies of these forms, reach out to them, reach out to me, reach out to whoever you need to, but make sure you have this information because it will make a major difference for you in your business, in your life, in everything that you do. When you can overcome an objection, you start to get what that you want in life. You start to get the things that you really care about. So thank you so much, guys. I hope this series has been very, very good for you. And I look forward to our next series, which is going to be how to maintain your database in a state of high effectiveness. Thanks so much. See you guys next time.